If you want to add logic to your Rust programs, you need to learn about control flow, specifically if, else if, and if with let expressions. In this short tutorial, I'm going to cover those topics. So let's dive into that right now. So the first one I'm going to cover is the if expression. It works really simply. If something is true as a condition, then execute some code. So I'll show you how to do that in the IDE right now. So the first thing we need to do is declare a variable. So let's do x is equals 5. And then let's create our if statement. If x is greater than 0, print x is positive. Okay, so let's see if that's going to run. Let's just tidy this up a little bit here. Okay, cargo, run. Okay, so it's returned x is positive. So let's just go over that again. Basically, we create a condition. So we've created a variable here. X is 5. Then after that, we've created our if statement. And if this is true, then it's going to execute the code inside the curly brackets, which is exactly what it's done. So in our first example, we had a single condition. And if this thing is true, run this code. What happens if we have multiple conditions that we want to test against? So what we need to do is we have to have additional conditions that the code can check and then do something if that condition is true. And in that case, what we're going to use is an else if statement. So I'm going to show you how to do that now in the console. So here in the console, I'm going to create the first statement to test, which is using the if statement, which we just covered. And then I'm going to add the else if statements. So let's declare our variable again. Let x equal, let's say 5. Now let's do our first if statement. If x is less than 0, we're just going to print x is negative. Now we need to add a second condition. Else if x is greater than 0, print x is positive. And now we actually have one more condition. So basically x can either be positive, negative, or the final condition, it could be just 0. So let's counter for that. So we don't need to do another else if, we just do else. And because it's the only condition, we just have to we don't have to add an argument here. So we just do print x is 0. So these are basically our three options here. So let's run this code and see if it runs okay. And then we'll change the value of x and see if it works in all conditions. Okay, so that's created a true condition. X is a positive number, so it's come down, it's evaluated, and it said, is x less than 0? Okay, so that first condition was not true. So it's come down and it's measured it against the second condition. Is x greater than 0? Yes, it is. Okay, so x is positive. Right, so let's change the value of x and run this again. Let's make x minus 5 this time, and let's run that again. Okay, so on this occasion, it's come down and the first one has been reached, so it's printed off x is negative. And now, of course, we should just test the final one, which is we're going to change the value to 0. Okay, x is 0. So now you can see how to use an else if statement with else to capture the different scenarios that you want to test against. And you can use, I've just used 3 here, but you can use multiple else if statements to match against different types of logic. In this final example, we're going to use an if-let statement to assign a value to a variable. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use an if statement to basically perform some operation and assign that value to a variable. So I'm going to show you how to do that now in the console. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable to work with, and then I'm going to perform a calculation, and we're going to use an if-let statement to use that calculation to assign it to a different variable. Then we're going to print that variable out. So in here, we're going to create a new variable. So let x equal some value of 5. Now we want to do let y. So this is the variable we want to create a value for. Let y equal if let some value equal x value times 2. So what's going to happen here is we're going to get an error, and I'm going to show you how to fix that error. So I'm going to do cargo run. And if we take a look down here, we can see that if we use an if-let without an else, it's going to evaluate to empty brackets here. So it's throwing an error. So what we need to do is we need to correct that. We need to add in an else block so that it will evaluate to the expected type. So in here, I'm just going to add else, and I'm just going to add a 0 here. And then I'm going to finish my expression. And then hopefully down here we can print out the value of y. Okay, so let's try running this again. Okay, so the value of y is 10, which is what we would expect. We had a value of x here, which was 5, and then here we've doubled that and assigned it to the value to the variable y. So that's how we can use an if-let statement to create a value of a variable. So I hope that really quick run through was useful for you. The first thing we did was we just used a simple if statement, and what we did is we just used that if statement. If something was true, then execute this code. From there we iterated. We used else if statements to cater for different scenarios, different options that might be true, and we finished off with an else where there was only one other option. And then in the final one, we used an if-let statement, and the if-let statement was used to assign a value to a variable. In our case, it was the variable y. So I hope that was useful. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll continue making more tutorials for the future. Okay, thanks for watching.